Times-Herald in Port Huron, then led the Times-Herald newsroom as managing editor until 1986, when she became assistant city editor at the Detroit News. She also was assistant managing editor, associate editor, and eventually managing editor. She's been honored with an Outstanding Alumni Award by the MSU College of Communication Arts and Sciences and has been involved nationwide in recruiting and training. These days, Sue's teaching as a visiting editor at Michigan State University. In August, she's headed to the University of Nebraska as Associate Professor of Journalism. The thousands of journalists who've worked with Sue know that her current and future students are in good hands. A true newsroom leader, Sue led and taught by example. Then and now, Sue always has understood the value of news and has had a gift of identifying with readers. But more importantly, Sue understands and cares about the individuals she works with or the students that she teaches. Whether working with an editorial assistant, reporter, or top newsroom editor, she guided with a firm but compassionate hand and made journalists better at what they do because of it. There were a lot of tears when Sue left the news nearly a year ago. It was clear that although a great editor was walking out the door, it was the person we all called mentor and leader who we would miss most of all. There likely are a lot of tears this month in MSU classrooms where students have already said Sue is one of the best teachers they've ever had. But today, there should be cheers for this guiding influence on journalism. If Lifetime Achievement Awards are given for the most lives touched and enriched, then there's no one more deserving of this one than Sue Burzynski.
The dirty little secret for most editors is that they're really only as good as the people who work with them. And that holds true for Nancy and most of the people at this Detroit News table in front of me, so I have them to thank for anything I did tonight. I also want to thank one of my new colleagues, Sandra Combs at Michigan State. They bought me the corsage. And Sam, I think, nominated me, or at least had a hand in nominating me, so thank you, Sam. You know, when I looked at the list of previous winners, I couldn't believe I was included in such good company. It's ironic that last year you honored Ben Burns, because you probably don't know this, but I owe much of my career to Ben and Mrs. Stellingworth. Mrs. Stellingworth was my 10th grade English teacher who said to me one day, you know, you're really nosy and you're a pretty good writer. Why don't you think about becoming a reporter? No one in my family had ever worked for a newspaper. Actually, no one in my family had ever gone to college. At the time, my dad thought a secretarial job at Consumers Power would be a good bet. I was a Jackson girl and they had good benefits. And back then, there weren't very many women in newsrooms. There certainly weren't very many women leading newsrooms. And most people, like my dad, thought that I would end up having a family and staying home with the kids. So you can't really blame him. Being a bit of a rebellious teenager, I skipped the typing class. Instead, I worked at Sears and sold Avon one summer so that I could pay my way to Michigan State. Who knew? That's when Ben first came into my life. He offered me an internship at the Lansing State Journal, and when I graduated, he helped me get a job in upstate New York. Later, he brought me back to Lansing, and after a stop in Port Huron, he wooed me back to the Detroit News. By then, Dad was kind of glad I ignored that advice. Times had changed. I'd already become the first female editor in Port Huron, and I was about to see a lot of other changes in the 21 years I was at the Detroit News. We went through JOAs, new editors, new publishers, a painful strike, a new owner, I'll never forget that day, and of course now falling print circulation and growing web readership. I'll be honest, there were many days that I thought, Ben, what the heck did you get me into? But mostly I've been thankful for the opportunities I've had as a journalist. After all, in what other profession do you get paid for telling people's stories? There's a certain thrill that I still remember that comes with your byline. There's also a weighty responsibility that comes with writing things that you know can change lives. Where else can you make the kind of impact that a journalist can make? Sometimes it's telling a heartbreaking story. Shortly before I left the Detroit News, Laura Berman, our columnist, had written about a young student dying of cancer. Her readers, some from as far away as Brazil, thanks to the internet, reached out to this student with hope and prayers. Sometimes it's the public service role that journalists play. We're seeing that unfold in Detroit these days with the mayoral text message scandal. As Free Press reporter Jim Schaefer told my students the other day, it's a story that would not have been told if his newspaper had not filed a Freedom of Information request and gone to court. I'm not sure there's any other field that comes with the adrenaline rush you get when a big story breaks, and you're doing your best to shape the coverage and giving people all the information that they need to know. As an editor, I really tried never to lose that passion or the excitement that I had for a big story. And over the years, I tried to model myself after Ben and instill that passion in young interns and new hires at the News. And even now, even though the industry is changing rapidly, I'm really trying to help a new generation of students feel the same passion that I had about journalism. Their careers are going to be a lot different than mine. They'll tell stories in many, many different ways. Print on paper will not be their primary vehicle. Many of them may never even work for a newspaper. But like Mrs. Stellingworth told me way back when, if you're curious and you have a passion for writing, journalism can be a great career. After all, I think no matter what the vehicle, you can still change lives. Thank you very much.